Well, if we're gonna find any ghosts, we better split up.
You're listening to Never Split Up, a horror movie podcast.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Never Split Up podcast. My name's Nolan, along with Anthony. Today, we have a good one for you. It's episode 58, and we are covering a big one. It is one of my favorite franchises, horror franchises of all time, and it's Anthony's not to spoil our previous episode from a year ago, but it's Anthony's favorite movie from this franchise. We are covering Saw 2, released in 2005. What's up, Ant? What's going on?
Nothing. I'm excited to get back into Saw. We did 2 previous episodes, and now we're getting back to it, so it's going to be fun.
Fun indeed. I always have a fun time revisiting this franchise and watching these movies back. It's my favorite horror soap opera for sure. It's great. If you haven't seen our previous Saw coverage, it was last Halloween season. We covered the original Saw, and then we covered our franchise rankings, which I thought was a good discussion. And yeah, so not to spoil it, but Anthony had it number 1, and I had it up there as well. I had it at number 2. So this is a movie that is means a lot to us. It's a fun time, and I'm excited to cover it. Before we get into it, I just wanted to talk about a couple things. First, do you want to cover the Never Split Up poll?
Yes, so thank you guys so much for coming with us on this Salem's Lot coverage. You know, the original 1979 adaptation and the 2024 adaptation that just came out last week. They both did really well for us, so thank you guys so much. Salem's Lot means the world to me. But yeah, so for the 1979 miniseries, I just won out the poll. I edged it out by a little bit, you know, with Danny knocking on that window, and, you know, he let him in. He let him in. So I just edged that out a little bit, but we just want to make sure you guys are voting in the polls. You know, comment your Never Split Up moments. Just a fun little thing we do just for fun. But yeah, we like doing it. So, you know, come join us on that.
For sure. We post those polls weekly for the episodes that came out. So definitely follow us on our social media. We try to post on Instagram and X pretty frequently. So please come join our community if you haven't already. In that same breath, I do want to shout out all of our listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other platforms. We get good numbers. I know we pump the YouTube up a lot, and we talk about YouTube, and we want subscribers on YouTube. And I'll let you talk about that. But thanks so much for everyone who follows us on Spotify and especially Apple Podcasts. I have analytics that they give me, and majority by like a large margin, I think it's like 80% of our listeners on the podcast side of things are from Apple. So thanks everyone who's listening on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it. And just a reminder, if you guys could throw us a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts, that really helps the analytics, and it helps more people find us, and it helps promote us on you know, home pages and stuff. So we would really appreciate that. We haven't gotten a review in quite some time, so that would be awesome to see. But yeah, I know you wanted to touch on the YouTube. We have a little goal that we want to set for ourselves for Halloween, so I'll let you cover that.
Yeah, for sure. You know, much respect to all of our podcast listeners, but if you're like me, I'm a visual person, so I like watching us, and I do think it adds an extra layer of entertainment when you can see our reactions to each other. It's pretty funny sometimes, and it's just a good time. And yeah, we're slowly climbing. We keep slowly getting subscribers, but we're just shy of 200. We need a little over 30 more subscribers to get there. We really want to get there. You know, if we can by the end of the year, that would be great. So, you know, it's the same annoying thing, but, you know, subscribe, share, like, you know, that'll help us show up on more, the YouTube algorithm, hopefully a little bit more. Yeah, we're just trying to really get to 200 as soon as possible. So if you guys can help make that reality, tell your friends and family who love horror, you know, just give us a shot and subscribe and see what it's all the fun's about.
I totally agree. I do enjoy watching us as well. I do think it adds that extra layer, especially, you know, seeing our reactions, especially with an episode like Salem's Lot, our last week's episode, where we had such different opinions. It was fun to kind of see our reactions and just kind of us playing off each other. But If you listen on Spotify, we also have the video format on Spotify, so you can watch us on Spotify podcasts as well. They have an awesome feature where you can watch the video feed as well. So shout out to all the Spotify listeners and watchers as well. But yeah, I think that's it for now. We'll get into Saw 2. And yeah, this is a good one. So why don't you cover the cast and crew and all that fun stuff, and then we'll get into our overall thoughts.
All right. So, I mean, for the plot, I mean, this is Saw, so it's, but it's, detective and his team must rescue 8 people trapped in a factory by a man known as Jigsaw. I mean, we all know who Jigsaw is. Come on now. It's directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. It came out in 2005. Wow, almost 20 years old next year. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and Darren Lynn Bousman, just for, so you can guys just put it in your heads and, refer to the franchise with the ones he directed. He directed 2, 3, 4, and surprisingly Spiral, which is way different than 2, 3, and 4. But that he did do that, and it's written by Lee Wanell, who he wrote and starred in the OG, along with Darren Lynn Bousman, also had a writing hand in this one, and it stars obviously Tobin Bell as Jigsaw, Donnie Wahlberg as Eric Matthews. We have the lovely, lovely, lovely Shawnee Smith as Amanda, and then a bunch of supporting characters. I mean, Beverly Mitchell, I don't know if anyone watched Seventh Heaven back in the day, but she shows up in Saw 2. Who else do we have? Eric Knudsen, he plays Eric Matthews' son. He's also in Scream 4, which came out a few years after this. Dina Meyer as Carrie. She's in Saw 1, Saw 2, and Saw 3. Just a bunch of different supporting casts. It's always a big cast because you want to have a high body count in these movies. So yeah, this is a really, really, I think, one of the most well-rounded casts of the franchise. And this movie was made for $4 million, and it made about $150 million worldwide. So this is like the hype. This is like 1 through 3 were really like when Saw was like killing it. It was always successful, but 1 through 3 was like massive. If it's Halloween, it must be Saw. Like the first trilogy, like that was everywhere. And I also think that's when Lionsgate used to know how to market movies. Now it's like they're getting really, really bad at pushing marketing. It's horrible. But I remember like specifically the OG trilogy was like, whoa, like Saw was the thing. It was everywhere. You had to go see it. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this one.
For sure. You talk about Darren Bousman and the movies he's directed in this franchise. It's pretty funny hearing you say that, because 2 and 3, love 2 and 3. 4, not so much. I have 4 a little bit lower than most people,
right.
And then
you did have
Spiral.
It lower than me too. Yeah.
Spiral is just,
Spiral was both of our last places.
Yes,
Spoiler alert, guys.
Yeah,
So check out that episode. But yeah, it's just so strange that he directed that one, because it didn't even feel like,
yeah, yeah. It was a swing and a miss for us, at least. But it's just funny kind of seeing how a director can just have different takes on movies, and I like some of them. I don't really like others as much, but definitely contributed to 4 out of the 10 movies he's directed. So he's definitely awesome. Contributed so much to the franchise, and it's one of my favorite franchises as a whole. So definitely give him his flowers for sure, his kudos.
Is it not your favorite franchise?
Well, what I say,
franchise?
It's horror.
Okay, all right,
but modern horror, like not
right.
all time.
Besides Halloween, I know Halloween.
Yeah,
obviously Halloween, but okay.
Yeah, in terms of horror, it's right up there. I don't know, let's say movies in general, because then it kind of gets a little muddied. But for horror, for sure, I definitely
it might
modern
franchises. You, right? Yeah.
It's right behind Halloween. Okay. So for sure.
Right, awesome.
And you talk about the cast. I definitely agree. I think this is maybe the most well-rounded cast in terms of not star power. Obviously, you don't have any like major A-list actors, but just solid actors. I guess Donnie Wahlberg would be the biggest star coming from this movie, just because of him and his brother. But you get good performances throughout. I want to shout out Glenn Plummer, who plays Jonas. He is one of my favorites, and watching this back for this episode,
poor guy.
I know, I feel so bad for him, but he's especially that final scene when he gets it, and we'll cover it when we get to it. But he really you really feel for him. I thought he was a standout, at least amongst the group that's in the house.
God.
So yes, and Xavier, the main villain
of
the movie that everyone hates.
I hate him.
Yes. All right, let's get into our overall thoughts. as you guys probably know already, we both recommend this movie, so we don't even really have to cover that, but I'll let you go first on kind of your overall feelings. And I know we kind of touched on this on our ranking episode, but just quickly just talk about, how you feel about this movie.
Yeah, so like I love the OG Saw, but Saw 2 is my favorite Saw movie because I think it does everything that when someone thinks of a Saw movie, they think of not just the mystery and the twists, but also obviously the traps and the kills and the big cast getting tortured. And, I just think that this one does all of that the best. It has the twists. It has the cutscenes that, were great in the OG. It has the music, the iconic music. It has multiple twists. I will say, we'll get to it towards the end of the movie. It has a couple great twists. I don't think any twist in the franchise ever lives up to the jaw drop you had at when, Jigsaw gets up off the ground in the first one. But I think Saw 2, the twist is the second best twist in the entire franchise, and it's still up there. So yeah, just overall, I just think it does everything a Saw movie sets out to do the best. I remember these characters the most out of the whole franchise. I think that Tobin Bell as Jigsaw, this is the most screen time other than Saw X that he has in the entire franchise. And I think that from a villain standpoint, Saw 2 is his most villainous role. In Saw X, he's almost like an anti-hero in a weird way. And in Saw 3, he's really on his deathbed for most of the movie. He's an active part of the movie, but Saw 2, he is like with the hood. He looks like Jigsaw. He's in character mode. He's like, oh yes, there will be blood. This is my favorite like villainous Jigsaw performance. So that's huge brownie points for me. And the kills and set pieces and traps, they're awesome, suspenseful. They're bloody, but they're not like over to the top or a point where it's like just okay. I think it just mixes the OG Saw and takes it a couple steps further and gets a little more creative with the traps. No one will ever forget that needle. There's not blood in the needle trap, but everyone feels that scene when Amanda's thrown in there. It's crazy. So yeah, I just think that this does Saw the best. It's as easy as that. And that's why it's my favorite. I'll always go to this one first out of any of them. If someone has never seen a Saw movie and they already know the twist of the OG, they're like, what Saw movie should we like pop on? There's 10 of them. Like, Saw 2. 100% Saw 2. It's my favorite. So this is going to be a really fun episode to get into because I also really love the OG. I gave it an 8.8. It's a great movie. So this will be fun.
Yeah, you talk about, it's funny. I was going to highlight this right away as well. You talk about Jigsaw, Tobin Bell's performance. I totally agree. I was gonna say the reason I love this movie so much is this is Jigsaw's movie. I mean, we get Saw X last year, and that was kind of a renaissance, and it was a kind of a we got to see him again in the limelight, kind of a nostalgia bait, if you will, in a good way.
100%. No.
This was, I mean, like you said, Saw 3. He's kind of at the end, it's more Hoffman and Amanda. Saw 2, he's just in his glory. I mean, he's in his prime, not like physical wise because he obviously has cancer, but he's in his prime in terms of this franchise. And seeing him with the robes and seeing him just totally manipulate Matthews and the entire police force, it's just awesome to watch.
Right.
It's one of the reasons, if not the biggest reason, that Saw 2 is so high on my rankings because it's so rewatchable just watching Tobin Bell kind of do his thing. I will disagree a little bit. The thing that doesn't stand out huge to me overall is the traps, the syringe pit aside, because we'll get into that scene. I mean, that's an all-timer horror scene for me. Mm-hmm. But besides that trap, I wouldn't really call this the strongest movie trap-wise, but the reason why that doesn't matter is because everything else is so perfect in this movie. It doesn't rely on the traps to be good like some of the sequels. Like, some of the sequels by the time you get into 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, it's like, okay, let's just see the next trap, the story's convoluted. We don't know what the fuck's going on, but at least we have the traps. But in this, it's the first sequel.
We still have that story, too.
We still have the story that you can cling on to. It's not too soap opera-y yet, and we still have the performances and everything.
I like how you say that every time. It's so true.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like a soap opera that's running out of plot lines, so they have to just connect everything. But I love it. I personally love it. But yeah, it does everything else so well that the traps don't need to be the focal point of the movie, which is fine. It balances out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right. But yeah, I love this movie. It was number 2 for me on our rankings, so special place in my heart. And I gave the original Saw was number 1. I gave it a high 9s, like 9.6.
It's an all-timer for you. Yeah.
So, that just goes to show you, I don't want to spoil my score of Saw 2, but Saw 1 was high 9s and Saw 2 was right below it. So, yeah, I love this movie so much, and I'm excited to talk about it with you. It sounds like we're going to have a more pleasant conversation than last episode. We're not going to
more easygoing
get into it as much, but no, I like having these episodes as well, where we just kind of gush over just brilliant filmmaking. And what we love.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. And I like what you actually to go back, because it's kind of, again, interesting to me what you said about the traps. I don't know why the traps might stand out to me, not because they're like bloody and like absolutely disgusting torture porn. I think it's also a lot of it because there's other characters present for a lot of them. So you're seeing them watch these other people go through the traps. And I think to your point, if you're someone who does not just want to watch people get tortured nonstop, which is what some of the later movies are just about. It's not, like you said, it's not about the story, it's just really about the traps, which is kind of when the franchise goes up and down for me. I think the original trilogy does blend both well, and if you want to still have that mystery vibe and you're not super into the torture, devices of it all, I think you would still be okay, especially with Saw 2. I remember my parents, went to see this one with me, and they're not, one to go to the Saw movies, they don't really just want to watch people get tortured for an hour and a half. But this one, they were like, okay, there's a mystery and there's a story, and Donnie Wahlberg, and so I think it blends everything. That's why I think it's my favorite. It blends everything the best. You can have someone who doesn't just want to watch people get ripped apart in crazy ways and wants the actual horror movie story to it too. This might be one that I would recommend to people for that too. Like my parents are like, oh, okay, this is a good Saw movie, because this is not one of their favorites franchises, but Saw 2, I remember okay, this is good shit.
I totally agree with you. I love what you said, how the traps themselves may not be the goriest, but the fact that you have the group aspect and you have other people watching the traps unfold, that's what I love about Saw the most. That's when it shines the most for me. So I love, Saw 2. I love Saw X because it has that. I love some of the other Saws, even, some of the parts of the sequels. That it's Jigsaw that has the big group, right?
Yes.
Jigsaw.
Yep.
I love, that's my favorite part of Jigsaw, is the fact that we get a big group together again. So that's what I love most about these traps, is when it's in a group setting. And this is my favorite group of characters.
Me too.
Performance-wise. But I have to say, they are probably by far the dumbest. And that's part of why the traps don't really stand out to me as much, is some of these traps, man, are all they had to do was just take a breath.
Especially that one with that chick with when she puts in one hand.
That one is the one that people always go to, but that's not the one that pisses me off the most. The furnace is the one that really pisses me off the most. What's that actor's name?
Opie.
Opie.
What's the? No. Yeah, Opie's the character. I don't know his name.
Oppie or something like that.
Oppie. Let me. You keep talking. I'll find it for you.
Yeah. But especially because he helped Jigsaw kidnap everyone.
Sorry, it's Obi, Timothy Bird. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he kind of understands that this guy's not someone to fuck with. So the fact that it was for him and he just kind of willy-nilly went in there and thought he was going to grab 2 needles without sacrificing anything. I mean, the valve is right there. All he had to do is literally take 5 seconds to inspect the thing. The razor blade at the end with the girl is what everyone goes to.
I feel so bad for her. Yeah.
I do too, and the fact that the lock is right there with the key in it already.
No, she's so close to.
I give her a pass though, because she is so delirious, and they're literally about to die from that toxin or whatever they have.
Well, I was gonna say I feel you on that, but I think my only excuse for them is that they're literally being pumped with poison.
Yes.
So they're obviously not all
in
the right mindset.
Exactly.
But I feel you. I feel you on that for sure.
Not even the poison. I mean, it's hard for us to judge because they're in a fucking
in the situation. I mean, they're literally getting
a Jigsaw game. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think. Yeah,
that's so funny. But that's the only thing. I'm like, they're being poisoned, and also this is life or death shit right now. And they have a fucking crazy asshole who's pretty much just as much a killer as a Jigsaw in this movie, Xavier.
For sure. But it makes for great
It's
entertainment.
great.
You know,
It's great drama.
you have Daniel, the son, Daniel Matthews, and you have Jonas, my boy Jonas. They're really the only two that are really trying to think critically through this and trying to take a breath. The others are just freaking out. And then you have, obviously, Amanda's the wild card, which we find out towards the end. And obviously, spoilers ahead, guys. All of our reviews contain spoilers if you don't know that by now. But so I just wanted to highlight that my favorite group, but definitely not the smartest bunch, for sure.
I agree with that. That's so funny. I even love I love the opening to this too. I mean, this starts the tradition of every opening is a trap. And I think this starts it off with a bang with the whole eye scene.
Yes, that is a way to start a Saw movie.
That's a cool mask too, a spike-filled mask. That was a cool visual.
Yeah.
And I love how it still has I love the vibe of 1 through 4, I would say, where it has like the cuts like in the original, so it's almost like a music, like how it cuts around and like does that crazy camera movement. Saw 2 keeps that up, and it enhances it, in my opinion. So I do like that they kept that consistency with the original.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it gets a little bit disorienting.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of when horror movies do over the top like flashing and stuff. I don't think it's needed, but I think it's overused a little bit.
Would you be able to cut your eye in that scene? Would you do it? Would you cut your eye? It's he can't do it. He literally throws it away at the end. I'm like,
anything with eyes. I think I'm in the same boat, man. I can't even put a contact or an eye drop in my eye. I'm such a wuss when it comes to that. So that's probably, if we had to think of traps in this movie, we'll just stick to this movie that were least likely to survive. It would probably be that one because I don't do eyes. What about you?
I don't do eyes. It's funny because I'm like, I'm going to do anything it takes to survive.
Yeah.
But when you're actually at that point where you have the scalpel and you're like holding it to your eye, I don't know. I might, because he almost had like the cut where it's like almost there to get it out, but I don't know. I mean, who am I saying?
But you don't have any time. Like if he had an hour to think it over and pump himself up, maybe I could do it. But 60 seconds, man, that's to go from waking up to, oh my God, I'm cutting my eye off. That's not a lot of time. They make it seem like it's, drawn out for the movie, but when you really think about it, it's...
Jigsaw's like, it's
nothing.
You have a chance, but not really.
Yeah. It's so funny when you think about... And I really want to do an episode highlighting maybe like our favorite traps or,
that would be fun.
Like another franchise episode. But it's funny when you think about some of these traps. It's like, Jigsaw really didn't plan for these people to live. There's some that he prefers more than others, for sure. Yeah, and then obviously you get into the Hoffman traps, which are, unwinnable, but yeah.
That's why Jigsaw cracks me up. He's like, it's your choice. I'm like, no, it's not. You're fucking
I haven't killed anyone,
It's so funny. But it is unique in the opening Saw, which I really do love Detective Carrie. I always get bummed out with what happens to her in Saw 3. But she finds a message for our new lead detective, Eric Matthews, so that makes it very personal for him to the case, and obviously he has a son, the son goes missing, so I really like the whole Eric Matthews and Jigsaw clash of it all throughout the entire movie. I think Donnie Wahlberg's really good in this too.
I think so too, yeah. Every time I watch this movie, I'm always reminded of how well he does kind of as a co-lead in this movie alongside, Jigsaw and then the rest of the housemates, for sure. I think he does a good job, especially towards the end when he just starts to like beat the shit out of Jigsaw and stuff. You really feel that pain of a father who just wants to get to his son.
But you feel it so much more when you find out that if he just listened to Jigsaw and talked to him the whole time, his son's right next to him. It's such a good twist. I love it. When it happened in the theater, everyone was like, I remember that scene. I was like, it was like, oh, yep. If he just fucking listened. How do you feel about Jigsaw, like the SWAT team in pretty much the beginning of the movie? Like he's pretty much apprehended for most of it. I think it's a cool twist that he's taunting them, even though he's captured. Like I think it makes him more of a badass. He's taunting the Detective Matthews while being captured already, and he still gets one over on them because they all leave to go to the house.
It's great. It's awesome. He's calm, cool, collected the entire time. Mm-hmm. He's even toying with them. He's, he's fucking with Matthews. He's telling Matthews, like, your son hates you. Like, you're a terrible father, like, right to his face. Because he's a dead man. He's got inoperable cancer. Right. So this is a man that knows he's on borrowed time, and he's not afraid to die. So when you have that freedom, it kind of frees you up to just do badass shit like this and to, you know, look death in the face, aka a grieving father who he already obviously knows he's a crooked cop and will do whatever it takes to, you know, do justice, you know, if you will. So yeah, it's great. I love one of my favorite lines in the movie is when they get the CSI team to the surveillance footage, and he's like, "Oh, your CSI team's arrived just in time." I'm like, "Oh my god, this
He's so funny.
He's so funny, yeah."
This one might have the most quotable lines too. Like, I love the "Oh yes, there will be blood." The way he says it, it's so damn good. But I do love the back and forth with him and Eric Matthews too, especially towards the end. You know, Eric Matthews like breaks his finger, and I'm like, "Oh fuck!" And of course, the whole. Man, do you have? When you first watched this, do you remember if you had like the sense that he would have an accomplice because he's that crippled, or did you just like along for the ride? Yeah.
No, I mean, I was pretty young. It came out in 2005. We were both pretty young, so I don't think I was really thinking in that terms like I do now. I'm always kind of looking for an angle. And it was only the second film. So we had the twist on the first, but it's easy to say now, like, oh, every film has a twist. So it's, you know, like Saw X. That was the most predictable twist ever, and that's not why that movie is great, but because
right.
You know, it's so predictable. But in Saw 2, I don't think anyone knew that that's what was going to be its mantra. You know, so I find a hard time to believe that anyone really knew for sure that maybe they knew he would have an accomplice, but definitely not Amanda.
Yeah, no,
I think they played that pretty well. Yeah,
I do. That's why I brought it up, because I do think that like when that twist came, I'm like, holy fucking shit. Because I was like, felt so bad for this poor woman that she's thrown into this situation again. And she does play it off. I mean, Shawnee Smith is, again, she's amazing. And she's so damn good in this movie. But I'm like, I felt for her, you know, until the third act, because I'm like, she's throwing this again, you know. She didn't play because you find out after she was, you know, a junkie in the first one that she was cutting her, you know, she told the story, she was cutting herself in this one. And it's just like, fuck, this girl has to learn another lesson, like this poor woman, like, good luck.
Yeah.
But then by the end, you're like, ooh, I love it.
One of my
favorite... it goes back to the original, because she says when she's interviewed, she's like, he helped me. And if you like go back and watch both of them, now you're like, oh, okay. So it's the little hints are there.
The hints are there, and it's one of my favorite things that filmmakers do when you have a movie that has a twist like this, is they lay little Easter eggs for when you rewatch the movie, and they keep that rewatchability in mind when they show little scenes and stuff. So Amanda, you know, you rewatch this movie, there are moments in this movie where it's like, oh, duh, of course she said that or she did that because she's his accomplice. I mean, you notice that her and Daniel, the entire time in the house, they're not getting sick. They're the only ones that are not coughing up blood and stuff. And it makes sense at the end because they were never supposed to die in that house. And then, you know, certain stuff where like the looks she gives people throughout the movie, it's like so little nods to the people that rewatch the movie. And I love when filmmakers do that.
Me too. Yeah, no. And again, it's right up there with the original for me. The original edges it out a little bit just because of the what the fuck when he stands up. But this is, to me, it does multiple twists the best of the entire franchise. You have the whole, it's not live, which I was like mind blown when the SWAT team went to the one location. You find out that it already happened. It's not live. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then you have the whole Eric Matthews kid of it all when he's there the whole time. And then you have, of course, the Amanda reveal. It's like boom, boom, boom. Like, fuck. And I love how she locks him at the end of two, like in the bathroom where poor Adam and the first one's rotting away. I'm like, oh, what a perfect way to end it. It's so, I love the twists in this movie. There's a lot of reasons why it's my favorite Saw movie, but the twists are so damn good.
We say that Amanda, and a lot of people say that Amanda is kind of Jigsaw's accomplice in this movie. I find it not super accurate because the brilliance of John Kramer is that, yes, she's his accomplice and he has her do like the dirty work of abducting Daniel, but she's expendable to him and he is still testing her. I mean, we see that in Saw 3, obviously, but not talking about the sequels, but just in Saw 2, it's pretty evident that he's still testing her, and that if she died in that house, then she would have failed her test and he still would have had his big twist at the end, and Daniel still would have been found, and his father probably still would have been dead. So I just love the extra layer of, Amanda thinks that she's like super, in with Jigsaw, and she's going to continue his legacy, but he's still feeling her out. And we obviously get that in Saw 3. We see that is more clear,
She's
but they
being
kind of
tested
lay
again,
those,
yet again.
they lay those seeds in Saw 2, which I think is cool.
No,
Because there are a lot of times,
Yeah.
there are a lot of times in the movie where Amanda could have gotten it. I mean, especially at the end with Xavier,
fuck her.
they were very close to getting, and I don't know if some of that was Xavier being a little unpredictable, and maybe they didn't anticipate him being that murderous. But yeah, he was something, that's for sure.
I don't know if I hate a character more than him. Like in most of the franchise, he's such a dick. I love the whole thing. I completely forgot. With the whole codes when we were watching, I forgot about the whole like numbers on the back of their necks. I'm like, oh, again, what a good, clever thing. Because it turned into like a murder show. Like they all want to fight for like, let me see. And of course, like Xavier's, show me your fucking neck. I feel, and again, we can talk about your guy, but that scene, well, his death makes me sad every time too.
I know, it's so.
What the heck's his name?
Jonas.
His character, Jonas. Okay,
Jonas.
His death, because he's such a good guy in the whole movie. He's just like, everyone, let's just come together and figure this out. He's trying to be the smart guy. He's trying to be the smart one.
He's pleading to him, and Xavier is down and out on his hands and knees, coughing up blood, and you think maybe finally he'll just like give in and and work as a team. And he has that whole monologue, and then Xavier just is like, "Nah, I'm on my own, man." I'm like, "Fuck, god damn it." Yeah, it sucked.
I hate Xavier, but I mean, it's great for the movie. I just love at the end, he's like, "How are you gonna?" When Amanda's like, "How are you gonna look at your number?" And he's like, "All right, bitch." He just slices his fucking. I'm like, oh,
that was pretty badass. Not gonna lie, that was awesome. That was pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
so awesome. Thank God Daniel comes to save the day with that one. But yeah, I mean, I think I remember because some of the later sequels, the supporting cast, it's kind of like I can't even remember them in my head. It's all jumbled. But I remember that like these cast members are from Saw 2.
Yeah,
and that says something. So I think you're right about this being the most well-rounded cast. Whether you hate the characters or not, they're doing what they're supposed to do, and they're very memorable. Yeah, I love all of them. My favorite, I don't even know what my favorite trap would be in this one. I know the one that like makes me cringe the most might be the Addis moment when she puts her arms with things just because she's like ripping. I don't know, like ripping.
That makes you cringe more than the needle pit. See, I think the needle pit
it's close.
is an all-timer.
Yeah,
cringe, squeamish moment. I mean, I just watched this movie again, and I still like audibly cringe at it, especially the part where she's like raking through. I'm like,
you can almost you feel, and again, Shawnee Smith like killing it. But I agree. Those two are the ones that get me the most, and I get so frustrated even more at the needle pit one because of what it like. He just tosses her in there like nothing, like,
and then he's yelling at her. He's like, "Hurry up, hurry up.
Do it!" Like fucking you, pussy, you do it.
And Daniel's like, "Someone should help her." It's like, dude, that doesn't
like,
need to be said. Why don't you jump in there, dude? Like, come on. Yeah, poor Amanda. I know. Have you seen the behind the scenes of them making that trap?
I have. It's very awesome.
I mean, they don't do that anymore. It's so cool. They ended up, so for people who don't know, they took real needles, real syringes, and replaced manually, one by one. They had a team working day and night, and they replaced the needles with, fake needles that were safe, obviously. But those were real syringes, and I think they thought that, like, 20,000 was going to be enough, and it was, like, way, way underestimated. They ended up doing, like, I think over 100,000 needles for that pit, and it took them days of hard work. I think the crew that was working on that, they had like calluses on their hands from replacing so many needles. So the meticulous, details of something like that's so cool. Where nowadays you just throw a fucking green screen and a CGI and call it a day.
I mean, hence our episode last week, man. I mean, they don't do it like they do anymore.
Yeah. And it really paid off because I think it's one of the great moments in modern horror history. It's definitely one of the most memorable. If you've seen this movie, you always remember that scene. You could talk to anyone, it'll be like, "Oh, the needle scene, the needle scene." It's legendary.
It's one of the top 3 like memorable scenes in the franchise for sure. And I love that you brought this up because this is what happens when you put care into your movie. Saw 2 is on most people's top, at least their top 3. Like, this Saw 2 is one of the greats of the franchise. When you put care and creativity into your movie, you're gonna get good results, and the fans are gonna like appreciate it and love it. And I think that even I mean, nothing's gonna be as memorable as two of them being stuck in that bathroom for an entire movie. That's just iconic. But I think the house overall is a really good place to have these happenings take place, and I think they put a lot of care. And I like the production design a lot. Again, this was only made for $4 million, and I think that Saw 2 and Saw 1 have the most memorable locations of the entire franchise as well, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. And we get that bathroom. I call it the most famous bathroom in horror. I mean, it keeps coming back throughout the series
Dirty,
for a reason.
grimy.
It is so legendary. Yeah. That first time seeing them enter the bathroom at the end when you see the lights go on, I remember I was like,
and it's perfect because in the theme,
Hello Zep comes on. Yup.
I'm like, oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. I get chills. I'm like,
I always forget. Wait. So they play Hello Zep twice in this movie. The first time is when they enter the bathroom. It's really not a twist though. It's not until they play it the second time that you really get the big twist. So I thought that was interesting.
The first time's for the nostalgia to be brought back into that bathroom of the OG.
Yeah.
No, I love it though. I mean, I get such like a hard on for this finale. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. It's so damn good. I'm trying to think of, again, I don't even mind that the poor girl from Seventh Heaven. A lot of people, their one bummer about her is that she doesn't give a trap. I'm like, the poor girl, she's like fucking dying pretty quick. I think it's kind of creepy when she just like convulses and dies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need to see her in a trap. I don't know if I really want to see an innocent girl in the trap, but I think it was like adorable that Daniel was like trying to take care of her, and then obviously she was just too weak to move on. And I don't know, I don't mind that death scene either. Again, I think you're right about like the traps aren't like extravagant, but the death scenes overall I think are fitting for this for the sequel.
Yes, agreed.
I like
so
Obi's
what
death.
would be
like
so
Obi's
your top
death
two
scene.
would be the razor blades and the needles.
Yeah, so the opening.
So we have the
obviously
first the opening sequence, which was cool.
Then we have we have the right, and when they're first realizing what's going on, the guy gets shot through the door with the gun, so that's his head's blown off. I thought that was a cool visual too. Not my favorite, but I think that's great. I think maybe my two it's the needles and the girl, what's her name in the movie again? Addison, when she's pulling her wrists out of the glass. I don't know. I always feel it. I feel it.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
No. And then fucking what's his face just comes in and she's like, help me. He just moves her hair and gets the number. And he's like, oh, this guy, I want to fucking go through the screen and wring his neck. I think those might be my two favorites. Again, I feel bad for Jonas when he gets it to the head by Xavier, because Xavier actually kills him. So that's the one. Is that the one kill he gets in the movie, Xavier? Or does he kill anybody else? I think it's just him, right? It's just Jonas that Xavier kills?
I think so.
Yeah, so Jonas gets killed by Xavier. And I think, again, there's not like too many traps, but I just think the location alone is a trap. So that's why it kind of all blends together.
Yeah, they had the SWAT team trap. That was pretty cool.
Yes,
with Billy.
Awesome.
That's the one Billy moment you get. Billy the puppet comes at the top of the stairs. So that's always fun.
Yeah, I think the needle scene and that are just always gonna be one of the tops of the franchise for me. And when you get to Saw 3, that's where like the traps like really, really, really go hardcore. But again, Saw 2 just blends everything the best.
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole I like the whole Amanda like monologue at the end too. I don't know. I love a good killer monologue. The way she talks to Eric, it's like, oh fuck, you done fucked up, boy.
Yeah, I think it was a smart choice from the writers to go with someone like Amanda. She's a female, very different kind of tone and voice and style to Jigsaw. I think if they would have tried to do like a Jigsaw copycat to take over, it would have been like, I prefer Jigsaw. But I love them almost equally. I mean, Jigsaw's the GOAT for me, but Amanda has her own style, and I really think she fits well within this universe, and she kind of does her own thing. She's not really like lumped in with Jigsaw. So I love that they went that route. So what do you think of the next thing I wanted to talk about was our poor victims, right? So everyone in the house,
they're like
the reason they're there is because of Matthews.
I love that.
This entire movie was a game for Matthews and his son, Daniel. That kind of sucks. you know, like I know these people were in jail. They didn't do good stuff, but they were also put in jail wrongfully. It sounds like,
right.
It kind of sucks. Kind of just a little bit disappointed in Jigsaw that he would just kind of sacrifice these people just for Matthews. I mean, is Matthews really that worth it for these people's lives? I don't know.
He's petty. Jigsaw's a petty dude sometimes. But I think that it adds a layer of suspense to Matthews' arc, Detective Matthews' arc, because at any, like, Jigsaw's, like, he taunts him, he's like, if anyone finds out, like, your son's fucking toast pretty much. Like, he's gonna be blamed for this because of you. Like, so I do like that there's that, like, suspense held over his head that everyone's in there because of him being a sketchy cop, and his son's in there with the people that he wronged. I thought that was another good, like, twist to the story and then mindfuck to Matthews' arc.
I mean, for anyone who says that Jigsaw, like, isn't a villain and he only traps people that are quote-unquote worthy, I mean, just take a look at this movie. Not only do you get those people who I don't necessarily think that they should have earned a spot in his game. They were not great people. I mean, maybe Xavier. I mean, he was just a fucking piece of shit. But, even going back to Amanda, I mean, she was a drug addict, like.
Right. What is she's not really,
she's got a disease. She's not like, she's not like, a murderer.
I agree with you. The only way I give people the pass is because Jigsaw himself doesn't think he's a villain, and that's what the knock I gave him in our villain. I'm like, you're a villain, dude. Just own that shit. Like, you're 100% a bad guy.
I would push back on that a little. I mean, he would never call himself a villain to his victims because that's always who he's talking to. But it's his life's work. He says that, but he knows, he's smart enough to know that. He knows he's the villain because he plays into it with the newspapers and stuff and coming back
that's why
years
I love
later
this one,
when he's
because
dead.
he's the most villainous in this installment.
Mm-hmm.
It just cracks me up when he's just like, live or die, make your choice. I'm like, is it really their choice? I don't think so. So you think it's blood? I think the blood's good enough. I don't think it's anything like over the top. I think it takes it up a notch from the first one, but it also keeps in line with just like the detective mystery, like, Seven-esque blood and torture of the first one. Doesn't go like full crazy over the top, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I thought it was enough. That's, believe it or not, that's not one of my like big criterias for these movies is the amount of blood it has. As long as it has cool effects and you get that sense. I mean, it's sometimes what you don't show, like you always say.
Everything's practical in this movie. Everything.
Yeah.
So good.
So yeah, I think it was balanced. Everything is about balance with this movie, like you said. It's balanced really, really well, and it's really hard to knock one specific thing about this movie. I want to talk about, and we don't even really have to talk about it. I just want to comment the pacing of this movie. I mean, this movie just puts the pedal to the metal and does not let up, but in a good way. I don't think it's too fast or chaotic, but I took a break from this movie and I was like halfway through it. I'm like, holy fuck, I only have 45 minutes left. I thought the movie just started. I mean, it is balls to the wall the whole time, and it's such a fun ride every time I watch this movie again.
In my opinion, it's the best paced movie in the franchise.
I can't argue with that.
Not only does it have like the pedal to the metal nonstop horror, but it also, which again, if you know me, it has the time for those character moments, and you breathe. With the reason why you connect with this movie is because of the moments with Eric Matthews and Jigsaw. If you didn't have those moments, the horror wouldn't mean anything at all. And I think that it's so paced well when the Darren Lynn Bousman decides to go back to Jigsaw Matthews. It's not like, oh man, I really want to get back to the traps in the group. It's like, no, like this is almost just as thrilling as what's going on in the house. So I think that it's kind of masterful, the pacing of this movie. I would agree 100%. To me, it's the best. It's even better paced than the OG, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can't argue with that at all. The OG, you kind of get these, and that's what makes that film great, but it's just different, right? So, because the OG, you get these two different things happening at the same time, and it all comes together. But in this movie, it's all connected but separate, and bouncing back and forth, the way it was shot, the way it was directed, the way it was edited, Just perfect. And I totally agree with you. I would say that this is definitely the best paced in the franchise for sure.
And thank you. Yes, we agree. We're agreeing on this one. I love it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
you know me, we've
horror
talked about
movies.
this. I have a soft spot for original entries. You're more of a sequel guy, which we found out. So
Yeah, we found
I'm
that
not,
out.
I have this number 2, but it doesn't really take anything away from how brilliant this movie is. It's fucking awesome. It's probably what really, like, when you really think about it, we had Saw, and I think we've talked about this too with Scream and with some other sequels. You have the original, it's iconic, it's got the iconic ending, but now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do to create that franchise? And this is what really sets the template for the franchise going forward. And it's probably the movie that really made me fall in love with the franchise, not just Saw, but the Saw franchise when this second one came out. And then we heard a third one was coming the following year. That's really what kind of made me fall, into the deep end with this franchise. So yeah, kudos to them. They just knocked it out of the park.
No, I agree 100%. I think Saw 2 solidified the whole franchise of it all. If it's Halloween, it must be Saw. I think that's when it's like, all right, Saw 2's around. Like, now we're in, like, the Saw is the big thing. It's like the original Saw is a modern classic, but I think once you got to Saw 2, it's like, all right, this is going to be a wacky, wild franchise, and we're in for the ride. And Saw 2 is just like the preview of coming events. But I think Saw 2 is what I'm saying. Like, when you go to, like, an installment that made Saw, I would say it's Saw 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate horror movies that bring back, like, fucking awesome, like, rock soundtracks. Like, when the Mudvayne song plays in the credits, Forget to Remember. I remember I bought the CD the second the credits started. I'm like, yes, like, I want my rock songs in my horror movies. I remember, I'm like, yes, amazing, love Mudvayne. So, I don't know. It's just, again, it's also, like, 2000s nostalgia, and that's my sweet spot. So yeah, all around this is like has everything I want in a Saw movie, and it has everything I want in like a horror movie that's based off of kills and torture, but it has the story too. It's like a whodunit mystery of it all too. Like, who is the apprentice? Who is the accomplice? I don't know. It has everything I want in a horror movie. And Saw's not my favorite franchise, but Saw 2 is definitely like top tier sequel wise department for me, and some of my favorite sequels in the horror genre.
Yeah, everything you just said for sure. I just adore this franchise. I'm so grateful for this movie. Anything else you wanted to touch on? We touched on the ending a bit. This is your favorite twist besides the original, correct? You said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I love at the end, like the end when Matthews is screaming, like, you fucking bitch, I'll kill you. Like, he's screaming at Amanda, like, where's my son? I love how it just, I mean, this is just chef's kiss, how it just ends after Jigsaw being like pretty much beaten to a pulp by Matthews. It just ends on the shot of him in the car, and he just smirks and smiles as it fades out. I'm like, oh god, this is fucking perfect, Jigsaw. I love how it ends on him smiling. It's so good. Yeah, so good, chef's kiss to me.
It is. Yeah, this movie is so special, and it's like you said, it's really Jigsaw's movie compared to any other movie. I mean, we have Saw X now to really find out who John Kramer is, but in terms of Jigsaw, this is like a Jigsaw movie through and through for sure. And you know me, I'm a villain guy, so definitely love this movie so much. Okay, that's Saw 2. Let's wrap it up and let's get into our moments here. So as you mentioned in the beginning, you won our poll for Salem's Lot, the original Salem's Lot. So I'll let you go first and kind of have your pick of the litter for your never split up moment.
Okay, it's going to be easy because I talked about the trap a couple times. I know her mindset wasn't all there, but it's going to be Addison when she puts in her second hand in the trap after already realizing her first hand was stuck and wouldn't be able to come out. I'm like, girl, you're going to put your other hand in the other slot. Nothing's going to change. Just I would have tried to smash the thing from the side or something. I'm like, oh, every time she does it, I'm screaming at the screen. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. And of course the movie can't change, but every time she puts her second hand in there, I'm like, God damn it, you fucking dumbass. Why'd you do it? And it hurts me because I feel so bad for her. So yeah, it's that. She after putting her first hand and realizing she can't take it out, she immediately, because she really wants that antidote, but she immediately puts her second hand in and like, fuck girl. No, what are you doing? So it has to be mine because it infuriates me every time.
For sure. And you're probably going to win because that is just what everyone goes to in
there's
terms
a
of
couple
dumb
of them,
decisions. I was going to go with a different direction, but because you went with that one, I'm going to go with my least favorite moment in terms of dumb moments. I'm going to go with the oven scene, the furnace scene.
Okay.
So I'll go with, what's his name? Obi?
Obi. Yeah.
Obi.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with
Obi.
Obi, kind of just going right in there and grabbing both needles.
That was so dumb.
Not taking 5 seconds to look at that valve. I mean, talk about simple crap. I mean, even after the fire turns on, he sees the valve. It's like, dude,
I know.
you're going to get burned alive, so you might as well just... That I would have... Well, first, I would like to think that I would be smart enough to see the valve before, but let's say I don't, and I see the valve after the fact. I mean, we get the tape that pretty much tells you, turn the valve off. I mean, he has clues, but if you're not stupid, you know to turn the valve off. I would have survived that trap even after the fire turned on.
Yeah, he was a dummy.
So
Now, what
dumb.
was the direction you were gonna go in? I'm just curious.
I was thinking of going just like with Matthews, not listening to
Okay.
Jigsaw, because now that we have 10 movies, it's
That was
so obvious
my
to
second
just
option. Yeah.
to just listen to what Jigsaw tells you to do, and you might have a chance to make it out. If you don't follow his directions, you're all but guaranteed to get fucked. You have to listen very closely, but I'll give him a pass because he doesn't know Jigsaw that well.
Right.
You know, the mythology is still forming, so I'll give him a pass.
That's
and
a
I
good
have
one
to go.
though too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how
it's
Jigsaw's
brilliant, dude.
Like, he's in a safe place. I'm like, he's in the fucking
Yes.
safe.
It's brilliant how they highlight that, especially after the twist, and they go back and they show you his lines of like, all you have to do is just sit here and talk with me. Just sit here and
and
talk
that's what
with
he
me.
said to Matthew. He's like, I just want to talk. If you just sit here, it'll be. I'm like, oh.
He even says, if you just sit here and talk with me, your son,
see your son.
will be safe and alive. He
And
says
and
that
he's in a
flat
safe
out.
place.
Yeah, he's in a safe place. I know.
I love
It's
that.
brilliant.
I love
It's
it.
brilliant. It's so good.
All right, those are good moments. Really good moments.
Yes. Okay, let's get into these scores. I'm really
Okay.
pumped for this. I want to see how high this climbs for you. So just to recap, you said Saw the original was an 8.8.
Yeah, for me it was an 8.8.
8.8?
Which is
Okay.
really, really, really awesome. Awesome for me.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, not 100% like Saw. I love Saw so much. It's not like an all-timer, one of my like favorite movies. But Saw is one of the best of the 2000s, one of the best twist endings in horror. And Saw 2, again, like I just raved about this whole episode. It took it up a notch, and it does everything I want in a Saw movie. So I'm gonna give Saw 2 a 9.
Okay, nice. All right, so they really are neck and neck for you. You weren't kidding.
Yeah, they're both so awesome and so good. So yeah, Saw 2 is definitely a 9.
Okay. And refresh my memory, did I give Saw a 9.6 or a 9.7? Was it 9.6?
I believe a 9.6, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just an unbelievable film. Talk about taking the original concept in the original movie and just kind of not only stepping up, but just continuing the franchise forward. It's so hard to do in movies and filmmaking. You talk about the great sequels of all time. They're celebrated for a reason because it's so hard to do. And I think this is right up there with not just one of the greatest horror sequels, but just in general. I mean, I think the horror genre as a whole, to most quote-unquote normie people that watch movies, it doesn't get its flowers nearly enough. But I think this goes toe-to-toe with, like you said, some of the greatest sequels of all time. And I think it's an astounding achievement. I gave Saw a 9.6. I'm going to give Saw 2 we'll just go with, just because I have to rank them, I'll give it a 9.
Hell yeah.
9.4. 9.4.
Oh yeah, I love
Yes.
it. I
So
love
we're
that.
we're two
Yeah.
little decimals off, just on either side
I love that.
for both of us.
Hell yeah, Saw 2. An awesome
Mhm.
time for both of us. I love it.
All timer for both of us for sure. Awesome. Okay, that was Saw 2. I had a really fun time just kind of gushing over this movie. I like doing movies like this, especially after last week's episode. We kind of get a little bit of both. It's nice to be on the same page again. I have a feeling we're going to be on the same page again next week, because next week
excited for next
we have
week's
another
episode.
huge episode. It's one of your guys' favorite franchises based on our listeners and our analytics, our viewership. Why don't you go ahead and announce again? We already have the schedule posted, but tell us kind of what they're in store for next week.
All right, guys. So next week is huge for us. We are going to be covering the first chapter in David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy with Halloween 2018. And like we talked about last week, we covered the original 1970 and we did a franchise ranking. Go check those episodes out. We get feedback a lot that those are some people's favorite episodes of our entire history of episodes we released, especially the franchise ranking. We got amazing feedback on that. But we decided to jump to 2018 instead of just going to Halloween 2 1981 because of the different timelines. And we figured, David Gordon Green's trilogy is always, brought up every year now with Halloween, and it's still pretty recent. So we're going to get this trilogy out of the way before we go back in time, back to the OG. And it's fitting for Halloween because, 2018 takes place 40 years after 1978 and ignores all the other sequels for everyone who doesn't know. But it's going to be a special one because Halloween is extremely important to us, and we both have a lot of fond memories of the lead up to Halloween 2018 and experiencing it and going to see it. I'll never forget that. So it's going to be a great episode. It will definitely be longer than an hour because we're getting back to Halloween. So
yes,
grab your popcorn, grab your candy corn, and get ready for that episode. I can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait too, man. It's going to be fun. I remember seeing it opening night with you. Actually, we went to go see it, I believe, in Dolby.
Yes,
and,
we did.
That was just
I was
a kind
nervous.
of a...
I was so nervous.
We were both so nervous, and it was almost like a surreal out-of-body experience. And I remember leaving the theater with you just, like, dumbfounded. We couldn't process what we just saw. I remember not knowing how to feel, and whether it was, like, a good feeling or not, because it was such a weird feeling. I mean, a franchise that means so much to us, and a character in Michael that means so much to see him again was just so special. So I'm so excited to cover that with you. That's going to be great. So that's going to be released on the 23rd of October. And then the week of Halloween, we're doing a double feature, guys. On the Tuesday, the 29th, is going to be our big 60th episode. We are covering, I know, I've already started my list. We are covering our top 10 horror movies of the 2010s. So that's obviously 2010 to 2019. And that's gonna be tough to narrow down.
You guys better come with your list, because if we're struggling to do this, I want everyone else to struggle and give us your list, because I am struggling hardcore to make this list.
About, at least for me, talk about a sweet spot for horror, like a decade in horror. So not only was there just so many good movies, but it was when I was in my heyday of going to the theater almost every week, seeing horror movies, just so special to me. So I'm really excited for that. That's going to be our big 60th episode. And then 2 days later, we're releasing on Halloween a very special episode. Definitely for Anthony, it's Trick or Treat. And that was released in what year is that? 2000?
It's tricky because it came out in festivals in 2007. I think it actually was released to the public in 2009. So
yes.
Yeah.
So Trick or Treat released in 2009. I know there's a couple Trick or Treats out there.
Yeah,
so
not Trick or Treat.
Yeah, Trick or Treat. Yeah. So that's going to be a really fun episode, just kind of to be released on Halloween. You can listen to it while you're, passing out candy to the kids that day. So that'll be fun too.
What the best day of the year, guys! It's going to be great.
It's the best time of the year, man. I'm really excited to be into fall. We had some cool weather this week, which is just awesome.
I'm feeling it. I'm vibing.
The leaves are starting to fall. It's awesome. So until next time, guys, follow us on Twitter, X, and Instagram at neversplituppod. Again, please give us some ratings and reviews. That really helps us on the podcast side. And please subscribe to our YouTube. Definitely, we want to get up to over 200 subscribers. That's kind of our next milestone. That would be awesome. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye.